By fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Hey everybody, happy Thanksgiving and welcome to a fun episode of the Hog Style. We're going to stuff our faces with some turkey and you're going to listen to some commercials and we'll be right back.
Support for the Hog Style comes from Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Ready or not, the holidays are here. Still struggling to come up with the perfect gift for that special someone in your life? The answer is Manscaped. The Manscaped Perfect Package 2.0 is the perfect gift this holiday season. It includes the Lawnmower 2.0 trimmer, the Crop Preserver anti-chafing deodorant, and the Crop Reviver toner spray, which is infused with cooling aloe vera to keep you from sweating, sticking, and smelling. Trust me, she will love the manly scent of these products. It even comes with a pair of Manscaped boxer briefs to keep you feeling fresh all day long. Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. Their new Lawnmower 2.0 has proprietary advanced skin-safe technology to prevent nicks and snags, has a rechargeable battery, and it's waterproof so you can use it in the shower. Stop using the same trimmer down below that you use on your face. So what are you waiting for? Head over to manscaped.com now and get 20% off your order and free shipping by using the code BIGHEADS. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Promo code BIGHEADS.
Welcome back. It's a skeleton crew today. It's just old Steve and I. But Steve, you know, it's the holidays, so I'm always in a good mood because this is my favorite holiday of the year.
What's eating?
How about you?
Yeah, it's eating. You know, that's your favorite holiday. I get it. No, I like Thanksgiving. Christmas has always been my favorite holiday. I'm just more ecstatic, more than anything, that we do not have to do a show on Thanksgiving Day. Thank God.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, I'm so tired of the Thanksgiving Day routine. It messes the whole day up. You know.
What do we have? 3 of the last 4 seasons we were playing on Thanksgiving or something?
Yeah, and it's like, how do we do it? You know, we're like whining about having to cover the Redskins, but it really is a grind. I mean, you're talking about Thanksgiving, it really is difficult to do on Thanksgiving.
It's a tough one, too, because I'm usually out of town, so I can't do it most of the time. And, you know, even though I miss shows, I'd never like missing shows, but...
Yeah. And I'm the moron
things like that
who
happen.
drags, microphones to airports and,
Yeah.
I'm crazy. But no, we're going to have a Thanksgiving, meal tomorrow. So that's good. I guess today, by the time you guys listen to this, I'm all in favor of turkey. Although, turkey has become less special over the years because there's a prevalence of turkey that did not exist 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. 20 years ago, it was like turkey was a big deal. But now you can order turkey at any deli, basically.
Yeah.
So it's become slightly less than it was, I'd say.
Turkey is my go-to meat at the deli, by the way. I don't know.
Well, me too.
It's healthy.
Yeah, that's why. It's a little bit more healthy than chicken. Maybe not, but that's what it's in my head that it's healthier than chicken.
Right.
So
I'm telling you in my head, too.
Yeah.
It's healthy.
If you're a nutritionist out there, I don't care. Don't tell me, but that's what I think. And of course, then I add cheese to it, and it blows the health right out of the water,
Right. Yeah. And a little mustard in my case, too. I know that's not your thing.
No.
You're not a mustard guy. Well, let's change from that turkey. Let's talk about a whole nother turkey. And I'm changing the order of our actual list. I'm going to go with the turkey that is the protest outside Redskins Park this morning, where the family of Julie Crabb, the woman who had an overdose at Monte Nicholson's apartment and passed away. They were protesting outside of Redskins Park. And Steve, I saw that this was happening, but I don't know what they were asking for. So do you have that kind of info? Or was this just, they're still angry at Monte Nicholson for what happened?
I think it's more that they're just angry at Monte Nicholson. I think they want quote unquote justice, whatever that means. I don't, they don't have an organized list of demands here. I mean, if you look at the T-shirts, the shirts they're wearing, they all have the same shirt. There's two of them. One of them says, number 35 never called 911, and the other one says Justice for Julia. Her name is Julia, not Julie. Julia.
Oh, sorry, Julia. Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it, and we're not talking, again, we're talking family and friends of this woman, not, hundreds of people or anything like that. I get it. The dude, he might not have committed a crime, and I suspect if the police were going to charge him, in my experience, they probably would have charged him by now because, I mean, frankly, there's not a lot to investigate. But he certainly didn't handle it very well.
No,
and he was certainly trying to
I don't think
protect
anyone would say he
himself.
handled it well.
He's trying to protect. The only conclusion we've already been down this road, but the only conclusion I could come to is you didn't call 911 because if you called 911, they would have had to come to your house. And what are you going to find in your house? A bunch of stuff that you don't want enforcement people to know about.
Right.
That's why you didn't call 911, Monte. I'd be putting money on it, and I think that's their point. It's like you didn't. I don't care about anything else. My daughter, friend, cousin, whatever she was, died because you were thinking about yourself. That's, I think, probably sort of where they're going with it, if I had to guess.
I mean, I understand that, and I understand, when somebody dies unexpectedly, especially somebody young, there is that inclination to always want to look for, I don't want to say scapegoat, but, somebody to kind of put the blame on.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's like fact number one is unless Monte Nicholson was shoving pills down her throat, which I highly doubt that, she is responsible for that herself. She volunteered to take drugs. She got hooked on them to the point where she couldn't stop and she overdosed. That's her fault, not Monte Nicholson's fault. But, the extraneous stuff after that, he didn't handle it right. There's no doubt.
Oh, yeah. And I think everyone kind of agrees on that part there.
And I'd just like to point out.
It's just a tragic situation.
Yeah.
But I couldn't imagine, first off, it'd be a horrible experience to be in his shoes and somebody you cared about died in your house.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But then now people are protesting outside your work, that's just.
It's awful.
Kind of awful.
Oh, it's definitely awful. And, as far as the Redskins part of it, the Redskins handle everything badly,
Right.
Because they had poor Bill Callahan up there today, and they're asking him about Julia Crabb. They're asking him, what do you think about the gathering, outside the park today? That's not for the coach.
No.
But he's the only one they can ask because they don't ever say anything. At a bare minimum, trot Sean DeBarberie out there and have him make a statement at least.
Yeah, that really should be Sean DeBarberie.
Or Bruce Allen, you're the team president. You never said a word about it. If you had just done that and acknowledged these people in some way, you wouldn't have to ask Bill Callahan. So what Bill...
I mean... He said something in the press release way back when, didn't he? Or they just had attributed a quote to him.
Yeah, they attributed it because I've been down that road. In case people don't realize this, the quotes in press releases are pre-written and they go, okay, here's your quote. Is that good enough? Yes. That's how that's how it works in press releases.
Steve and I have both been in that situation.
I've written them. Are you kidding me? I've written them.
So have I.
Yeah. Okay, so Bill Callahan said... They asked him about the gathering with Julie Crabb's family outside Redskins Park today. He said, I heard they were out there late this morning, and again, I just want to say deep regrets and condolences for that family and what they're going through. I don't wish that on anybody, the loss of a daughter, and it's a real heartfelt tragedy, and I feel terrible for their family and only hope for the best going forward.
He's saying the right thing. Sure. That's all you can say.
Yeah, and I get it, but why
What's
is
he
going
to say? Screw him.
No, but it's like, why is the coach saying anything? If you would do the right thing, you wouldn't have to ask the interim head coach that. But in keeping Monte and playing him and all that, we've been over that. I don't want to go over it again. The Redskins never do the right thing when it comes to these sorts of things, ever.
Well, no, there was one time where they did the right thing, and it's kind of a sad note.
I don't remember this. I don't know where you're going
with
this. Well,
it was, what was it, 10 years ago now that Sean Taylor passed away. It might be 12 years ago. Sorry, not 10.
12 years ago now, yeah.
So we're on the anniversary date of his death. There's been a lot of sharing of highlights and stuff like that on YouTube and Twitter and other social media venues, whatever ones you like, Instagram. I don't know about Snapchat. I don't think people share things like this on Snapchat. But, yeah, it's just a sad thing. Every year around this time, you start seeing those videos. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, our buddy Steve Rosenberg sent out a tribute to him today. Steve Rosenberg is the author of his biography. He was a guest on this show, 2 years ago? And we've
2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, we've kept up with him ever since. It's just really sad. What I've sort of never forgiven and never forgotten, because also I'm just petty, is Wilbon and Colin Cowherd in particular. Those two guys immediately, without knowing anything about the incident, said, "Oh, this doesn't surprise me." Wilbon said, "It doesn't surprise me. He's been arrested." Implied basically Sean Taylor was a bad guy, and he kind of brought it on himself. Colin Cowherd went further and said words to the effect of, you can clean up the dirt, but you can't get it all up, meaning that, even if Sean had cleaned his act up, he still came from bad, and, so he's the cause of his own death. I mean, I never forgave either one of those two guys. Wilbon in particular should know better. Wilbon is from D.C., or he's from Chicago, but he covered the Redskins. Wilbon is an African-American who ought to have greater sensitivity to how African Americans are treated by the press, and he didn't at all. So I've never forgiven those two guys for jumping to conclusions about it. When we learned what really happened was that he was tragically murdered, in a house that
he was
they
shot
thought
in his own home in his bed
when they thought he was when they thought he wasn't there.
Right. It was a terrible. The whole thing was terrible.
Oh, awful.
And
rest in peace.
Yeah, I remember that too. I do think that Cowherd eventually apologized.
Did he?
I might be wrong about that.
I don't know. I mean, if he did, I never knew he did.
Yeah, I kind of tuned those guys out after that incident.
Yeah, and Wilbon, I mean, Cowherd didn't surprise me. Wilbon surprised me.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, Wilbon.
I mean, do you think it was just doing stuff for the sake of shock value back then? Is that what was going on? Or
Cowherd, yes. Wilbon, no.
Yeah, that's the most depressing thing.
I mean, neither one of us are African Americans, so we don't know. But I mean, I just have to think that he in particular should have been more sensitive to jumping to a conclusion about the death of an African American athlete. We can't. You and I can't walk in those shoes.
I think we all know that.
Yeah. So, and Cowherd's kind of known to be a loudmouth, shock guy, and he's never been my favorite. And
well, yeah, and he's also got a bad history when it comes to some of the whole racial stuff, I think.
And he hasn't treated women particularly well at times, and some of the stuff he said, and
it's that shock jock era, like you said.
I mean, he had who's the stupid guy, LeVar Ball on his show, and LeVar. We talked about this in It's Just Business. When it happened, he had LeVar Ball on it, and LeVar said something ugly to his female co-host.
Oh, right, yeah.
Something really misogynistic, and Cowherd just kind of let it go. Cowherd should have checked his ass right then and said, "You will not do that on this show," and he didn't at all. He just let it roll. That's just Colin Cowherd.
Yep.
So
I don't. That's why I don't really pay attention to him. All right, let's go from that kind of depressing remembering Sean Taylor moment to the latest Redskins controversy. And it might be, Steve, in my opinion, the stupidest controversy of the year at Redskins Park, and that's a high bar.
Is it even a controversy? I guess it is.
Well, I mean, people were talking about it for like days afterwards.
I had people text me. Who
texted you?
A friend of mine in Seattle, who's not a Redskins fan, texted me and said, "What's this guy doing? This guy doesn't have his priorities in line." And at the time, this was like Sunday night right after it happened. And at the time, I thought the selfie thing was after the game. And so I said, well, wait a minute. The selfie didn't happen. Turns out he was right. But point is, this made it to Seattle. For a guy who's not really a football fan.
It made it to national news.
He's not a football fan either, this guy who texted me about it. And that's not the only one. I got a couple of those like that. Look. This is zero controversy. None.
Right. This is the dumbest thing to be upset about on the planet.
Should the man have been there? Absolutely. Does it matter that he wasn't? No, not at all.
No.
This is something like the coach should say, okay, dummy, don't do that again. Pay more attention. Got it, coach. Sorry. The end. That's all it should be. And that's all it was, by the way. Between Callahan and Haskins, that's what they said happened.
Yeah. Here's my thing. Not only do I not care that he was off on the sidelines taking selfies with 3 seconds to go and a kneel down, I think you should encourage it.
I'm kind of glad
this
he wasn't out there.
This team desperately needs to get fans back into the games. And one of the ways you can do that is by having players start to engage with fans during the games a little bit.
Of course, it's kind of ironic that the fan he picked wasn't a Redskins fan at
all.
No,
that's true.
If you're gonna, don't pick somebody in a blue jacket. If you're gonna,
hey, it's a new fan, Steve.
There you go. I guess that's true.
He made one fan. That's more than Dan Snyder's ever done.
Well, and he actually this week, I'm going to get the guy's name wrong. I don't remember. He also this week went to go see a high school kid who had a stroke and was out in a wheelchair and gave him the game.
Haskins went to see this
did
kid?
this, yeah.
I was like, the selfie
Sorry,
guy?
No. Let me back up. Dwayne Haskins this week went to go see a diehard Redskins fan, like a high school age kid who had a stroke and is now in a wheelchair, former football player, gave him the touchdown ball.
That's awesome.
Yeah, or a signed ball.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's great. We need to do much more of that. And we get all these charity announcements from the Redskins, and they never get publicized too much because I guess it's just the normal Tuesday stuff. But I think the team probably needs to do a better job instead of just sending a press release out that nobody reads.
Or a tweet out that nobody reads.
And I do sometimes. They ask us to tweet stuff, and I do tweet it, but, I mean, nobody reads it or cares. They ought to do a better job of publicizing some of this stuff that these guys are doing, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know how you go about publicizing some of this better, but you're probably right. But back to the selfie thing a little bit. You should be embracing this more. We need, we love how Darius Geis is kind of this positive energy around the team. Haskins doing that on the sidelines, that's positive energy. This isn't a negative thing. Stop trying to spin it as negative, whoever you are out there trying to do that.
Absolutely.
You're just a bunch of old curmudgeons. Guess what? Backups take the knee. You don't need the starter for that. You could have the kicker go out there and kneel the ball. It doesn't matter who does it.
I wouldn't want to do that. You still have to snap the ball. But, yeah, I would rather have the backup doing it, quite honestly, in case some weird thing happens. Yeah, I don't want I'd rather have the backup.
Hey, you know what? It also means the quarterback doesn't have -2 yards on his stats.
I'm totally with you, though. I mean, stop being a curmudgeon. Whoever out there was grouchy about this and, he should take responsibility for it and he should be paying attention, blah, 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 spare me. Oh my God, spare me! You're exactly right.
People need to have fun.
What I wrote in the takeaways this week was, the team publicized the attendance, and we all know that was a fallacy. But my point with that was that at the end of the game against the Lions, the few fans that were there were loud and vocal and cheering. And part of that was that Haskins himself was so hyped on the sidelines, and they saw that. That was on TV.
Exactly.
They saw him. He was, raising his arms, asking them to cheer, and they did. The 10 people who were left were very excited. And he took the selfie. I think you're 100% right. There's no problems with them, especially a team like this who has nothing to cheer for. By God, let the man do that. Let him get excited. Right. I'm all for it.
I don't want Eli Manning on the sidelines looking like he's, brain damaged or whatever he is after a win. That's what I don't want to see.
A certain kid who may or may not be living in my house, who may or may not be a Giants fan, because he may or may not be originally a humongous Odell Beckham Jr. fan, has come to me and said, Eli Manning needs to start again.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like, oh, no, he doesn't.
Well, can we try and remember that for when we do the Giants preview? Because that's hilarious.
Yeah. I'll try to remember that one. Keep me on that. Yeah. Somebody remind me out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, so we should get to the actual preview because we're playing the Panthers this week.
Yeah.
Panthers are an interesting story because, Cam Newton, he's healthy again, right, at this point? Yet he's still on the bench.
I believe he's on IR.
Oh, is he on IR? I thought they said he was healthy again, or is he still getting healthy?
He's not playing this year. We should have done our research on that. I didn't pay attention to it because I know he was out. I think he's on IR. If you give me 1 second, I will look it up. By the way, go ahead.
Well, while we're doing that, so it's going to be an interesting game in my mind because we're seeing, 2 young quarterbacks instead of Haskins versus Newton, which I thought was going to be kind of an interesting battle between, your more typical pocket passing quarterback and the bulldozer that Cam Newton was.
Yeah.
Just very different styles of play. But I've heard people before kind of compare Haskins to Newton in that they're both these like kind of bigger body guys.
You know why they're comparing Haskins to Newton?
I know why.
It's because they're both black quarterbacks. I've been on this rant recently about that. Dwayne Haskins plays nothing like Cam Newton whatsoever. Yes, they're both big. That's where it ends.
I mean, their body types look very similar sometimes. But Cam's probably got another 40 pounds on him that you can't tell.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cam is on IR, by the way.
He is? Okay. Yeah. I thought he was – I didn't realize he was on IR.
No, and I tell you what, I watched a good bit of the last game he played. He did not look like an NFL quarterback. His arm, he looked complete – I don't know if it was – because he had shoulder problems last year. I don't know if he was still injured, if it was like this Liz Frank. I think he had a Liz Frank thing, didn't he, in his foot? He had a foot problem. And I don't know if it was because he couldn't plant or what, but his arm looked like a noodle arm. It looked like who's the kid that we signed about Shanahan kept on for a week?
Oh, John Beck?
No, the other one. The guy who kept on for the Philly game. The guy, White?
Oh, Pat White.
Pat White. His arm looked like Pat White.
Pat White was a fun quarterback in college to watch. I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Newton did not look like himself. He needs to be on IR. So, Kyle Allen is a new quarterback. I watched Kyle Allen.
I watched some highlights of their last couple games with him.
I watched some All-22 film of him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He's a guy who's got a decent arm. His arm is nothing special. He's a pretty smart guy. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes, as is evidenced by his numbers. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions.
They're asking him to play pretty safe, though, it looks like, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the Carolina offense runs through Christian McCaffrey first and DJ Moore second. Those two guys are the Carolina Panthers offense, and McCaffrey is everywhere. It is the Christian McCaffrey show, but I think Kyle Allen is really boosted up by the fact that 90% of the time, Christian McCaffrey is standing uncovered in the flats. But he's a guy who I don't think he's going to wow anybody, but he's not going to make a ton of mistakes. He's not going to cost you a game. I think he's a very definition of a game-managing quarterback. And given what Cam Newton looked like, which was not an NFL quarterback,
right.
It was probably the best move. And they won a bunch of games in a row with him. They haven't done it recently.
Right. Now they're on a 3-game losing streak.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. So he's okay. I don't think he's not what scares me about the Carolina Panthers. What scares me about the Carolina Panthers is Christian McCaffrey.
Right. Who is he reminds me of, he's a white Brian Westbrook, such a great dual threat.
Yeah.
He
is.
It's a matchup nightmare waiting to happen. And it is the one thing that is interesting with Allen in there now. Back when they were playing with Newton for years, their offense always kind of looked a little unconventional, because they had the quarterback running all the time. They had they never really had any kind of conventional passing game, it felt like, for a lot of his career. It was a lot of tight end was the primary target type stuff.
Or he would go downfield.
Yeah. If he had somebody. They never really had many elite receivers.
They drafted a couple of them trying to get him, and they never found one.
Right. They had, who was it? Steve Smith early on. That was about it.
Yeah, and then they drafted the real big kid, Kelvin Benjamin. They had him, and he ended up being a train wreck.
No one never quite worked.
Yeah, no.
But now that they have Allen in there, it's like they have to run a more conventional offense. But McCaffrey is still so effective in that offense.
Allen can do it, but McCaffrey is first of all, he's the number one rusher in the NFL right now. 1,100 over 1,100 yards. He's averaging 5.1 yards per attempt. He's got 62 receptions on the year, 586 yards.
He's putting up MVP type numbers.
He is.
Running backs don't make the MVP anymore. So.
No, McCaffrey's putting up the numbers. He is clearly better in space. but he is a guy who can also run inside. He's not going to bulldoze anybody. He's going to, that having been said, he's not a weakling, by running back standards, but he's not going to bulldoze anybody. But he's agile enough that he can kind of pick his way through the A gap. He's not like Chris Thompson, who you really don't want doing that. McCaffrey can be effective in the interior, running through the interior offensive line sometimes, unlike a guy like Chris Thompson. But the offense runs through McCaffrey. And what I was really struck by, like the last bit I watched was the Panthers Saints game last week, and I was really struck by how crucial linebackers are going to be in this game, because McCaffrey, 75% of these plays, he doesn't chip anybody. He goes out and stands in the flats with nobody around him, and he's quick enough and agile enough that he's going to get 10 yards every time, and that's what he does. Again,
it's Brian Westbrook, it's Marshall Faulk, a little bit LaDainian Tomlinson. He did that for a while.
A little bit of Brian Mitchell in there.
Brian Mitchell, but Brian Mitchell was ever really like the number one running back?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't.
He was a gadget guy the whole career.
You're right.
But I'm just thinking of those great dual threat running back types.
My problem with this is, I don't know how to stop this. What is most important,
with our roster, I don't know either.
What is most important, John Bostic in particular has got to play the game of his life. I think the only way you stop Christian McCaffrey out in the flats, on the edges, taking flat passes and running screens and all of that stuff, and he's good enough. A lot of them aren't even screens. They just hand him the ball and let him create. You've got to have linebackers who are agile enough and quick enough and smart enough to not leave him alone and be able to stop him from getting big chunk plays. And, it's having to rely on John Bostic isn't a good thing, but, what's the alternative?
Well, I'll actually put a different name out there, and that's Landon Collins, who he's going to be a little speedier than Bostic, which I think matches up better with McCaffrey. I know, because he's a little smaller, that means he's probably going to not be as sure of a tackler. But, Collins is no slouch when it comes to taking guys down.
Collins is our leading tackler on this team.
But, I'm just thinking, it's the size mismatch that you kind of would want with Bostic.
That's a good point. Yeah, Landon Collins, I think he's going to be integral in it. That's exactly right. I think it's a very good point.
That's who I would be trying to say, all right, you go out and shadow McCaffrey. It'd be Collins. It would be actually Cole Holcomb. I think might be a little bit better just because I think he's got a little more speed.
When you say shadow McCaffrey,
I know we play a lot of zone, so it's not like he's going to man up on them.
Yeah, that and my problem when you shadow people like that is you're really taking people out of the game. Because that means you have to shadow him and you have to follow him. Landon Collins is pretty critical to our in the box defense, and so I don't know if you want that, but I do agree with you for sure that Collins is going to be integral in it. So, the middle linebackers, inside linebackers, Landon Collins, those guys are going to have to keep control of Christian McCaffrey. You're not going to stop him. Nobody stopped him really. You know who stopped him weirdly is Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay Buccaneers have his number, but
someone called Todd. See what he says.
Yeah. For some reason, Tampa Bay has his number, but everybody else he's run all over pretty much, and run all over and caught a whole bunch of balls.
Is there any rules that say Doug Williams can't make a call to his old teammate and just say, "Hey, what did you guys do?"
Why would he answer the phone?
And that I don't have a good Doug Williams impression there.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't have that. Yeah. He ran for 16 yards in the first Tampa Bay game, and then 26 in the second. Oh, that's sorry. Yeah, is that receiving? I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, I'm looking at that was the wrong column. 37 yards in the first Tampa game, and 22 in the next, 31 in the next. So
so they shut him down.
Yeah, but everybody else ran for 146 yards against the Tennessee Titans. 153 yards.
Was that their last win?
I think it was. Yeah, it was. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, 153 yards against the Arizona Cardinals, 128 against the Rams. The Saints did a decent job against him, 64 yards. But that's the Saints. I mean, the Saints are not playing the same game that the Redskins are playing.
The Saints are elite Super Bowl caliber team.
Yeah, they're not,
year in, year out.
We're not playing the game that the Saints are playing.
No. And the Panthers put up a good game against the Saints. That's the last, I watched, the whole
11-minute
quick version of that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it came down to a last-minute field goal.
Yeah. So point is, Panthers offense, Christian McCaffrey, number one. The other guy, DJ Moore, this dude has put up massive numbers himself. Moore has 905 yards, 103 targets on the year, 68 receptions. Yeah, 103 targets, 8th in the NFL. He's only averaging 13.5 yards a carry, or a catch rather. But,
so more of a possession guy?
Yeah, to a certain extent. And I think he's a beneficiary. These defenses are terrified of McCaffrey, So I think he's a benefit of that to a certain extent. But it's those two guys. It's not the Greg Olsen show anymore. Greg Olsen is doing well.
He's still there. That's what I was going to say.
45
Olsen's still
receptions.
A threat.
Yeah, 45, and we do terribly against tight ends traditionally. 45 receptions, 530 yards. But really and truly, stop Christian McCaffrey, stop DJ Moore, stop the Panthers. I think that's the answer. Not that we can do that.
I mean, that's not an easy task. The good news, in my opinion, is that when it comes to Moore, it won't be Josh Norman playing against him this week, we heard.
That's true.
I think if you're putting Fabian Moreau back outside on the edge and you're putting Quentin Dunbar out there.
Yeah, and let's be clear, we didn't hear this. Bill Callahan said it in the presser Wednesday.
Right. Yeah.
This is not something that somebody came to us and said, we think.
No, I don't think I meant it that way.
Yeah. Now, in terms of injuries, real fast, run through this. This is as of Wednesday night. DeShazier Everett, Ryan Kerrigan, Paul Richardson, all DNP. Kerrigan and Everett are in the concussion protocol. You have to think Kerrigan's probably going to miss his first game of his career. Paul Richardson, it's a hamstring. Anderson, Nicholson, Payne, Peterson, Scherf, Thompson, all limited on Wednesday.
But we've seen this with Peterson now every week.
Yeah, Peterson's going to play. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Peterson's going to play.
But he never practices because he's an old man.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. He will be fine. He'll be out there. In terms of the Panthers, now McCaffrey didn't practice Wednesday, but it was a rest day. So in terms of the guys that are injured, Greg Little, Gerald McCoy, Eric Reed, Shaq Thompson, all DNP for the Panthers. So we'll have to see how that works out. We'll get to the Panthers defense in a minute because they lost somebody big this week too.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they did. But in terms of the Redskins,
we talked about how you stop McCaffrey. I mean, it's not going to be an easy task.
The other thing I noticed is that the Panthers' offensive line sucks.
I've noticed that too in what I saw. If you bring pressure, you can get to Allen pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't like their tackles. I don't think either of their tackles can handle talented pass rushers. The Saints did a number on him, kind of all day. You're talking Greg Little and Taylor Moton, the right and left tackles. I think. Kerrigan may not be out there, but Montez Sweat and whoever replaces Kerrigan.
Probably, I guess, Anderson, right?
Maybe Anderson. Yeah, maybe, I guess Anderson. Yeah, I mean.
There's no other
there's
maybe.
No one else. Yeah, Anderson.
There's really no option.
But I think those guys can do well. The Panthers have given up a lot of sacks. Mm-hmm. They've given up 38 sacks, which is 28th in the NFL. The reason is their offensive line sucks. And Kyle Allen
they're playing a young quarterback.
Yeah,
so
he's not that. I mean, he's more mobile than you and I, but by quarterback standards, he's not that mobile.
Right. I mean, again, I was worried we were going to play Cam Newton, so
yeah,
the mobile fear is much less with this kid.
Yeah, not like Kyle can't run because he does run sometimes, but he's not known as a running quarterback. So, I mean, to me, I think the game plan needs to be contain however you contain him, McCaffrey, and then. But between Dunbar and Moreau, keep a lid on DJ Moore, and if they can do that, they have a chance. It's a tall order.
At least defensively, yeah.
Yeah, tall order, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's switch sides here because I think the offense is going to have a much harder time this week versus this Panthers defense. It's not, a terrifying defense like some of the ones we faced. Like even Greg Williams, I think, had some stuff dialed up there with the Jets. But Ron Rivera and they built just a consistent, solidly good defense throughout in that organization, year in, year out.
Can I disagree with you?
You want to disagree with me? Okay.
I do. Number one, the Panthers lost Dontari Poe to injured reserve, who is their nose tackle. And so they're bringing up Kyle Love, who's a shell of Dontari Poe. But here's my big point. And so that's going to make a big difference.
That will.
This defense hadn't been that successful overall. They've given up a ton of points. They've given up 291 points. Ranked 26 in the NFL for that. They've given up a ton of rushing yards at a huge clip. On the season, opponents are averaging 5 yards a attempt rushing. That's a lot, and it's very un-Panthers-like because I hear what you're saying about the Panthers. That's what when you think of Panthers, you think of solid, mistake-free defense, Luke Kuechly out there doing his thing. But the fact of the matter is they've given up a lot of points and a lot of yards. They are better statistically in the air, against the air. But the teams that have run all over them, the only team that really didn't was the Bucs, the Buccaneers and the Falcons. Everybody else, every other game, they've given up over 100 yards rushing. The 49ers had 232 yards rushing against them. The Packers, 163. Even the Cardinals, who stink themselves, 120 yards rushing. The Rams, 166. The Falcons are truly the only team that has struggled rushing. The Falcons. And so this ought to play.
And was that the Falcons early in the year or
recently?
recently?
No, the Falcons 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
They haven't. That was the second Falcons game is coming up next week for the Panthers.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize they.
This game plays right into Bill Callahan's hands. I think we're probably going to see a game plan that is more Bill Callahan-like than it was against the Lions.
Interesting.
I think they're probably going to try to really ride the rush this time because the Panthers are just much better against the pass. Passing yard-wise, average quarterback rating 84.2.
Yeah,
pretty darn
I was going to say the thing that stood out to me when I was watching the highlights and stuff versus the Saints is how tight their coverage was downfield, which, we don't see here. So
I think they have a weakness in their secondary, actually. You're right. I agree with you, but I think James Bradbury, number 24, is the weak link. He misses tackles. He blows coverage. He doesn't blow assignments, but I just don't think he's that good man-to-man coverage. And he's one of these guys that misses tackles because he's trying to make a hit. Instead of wrapping up, people get away from him. I watched the Saints tight end run away from this guy, last week. So I think if you can jiggy it around to match Scary Terry up against Bradbury, that's a weakness to exploit. And if you see that, I think Haskins needs to pick on that all day long, that matchup. Because, Eric Reed, who's, by the way, hurt, quality, strong safety, forget the politics of him on the field. It's quality, strong safety. Trey Boston, the free safety, quality free safety. Dante Jackson, good corner. I think Bradbury's the guy to pick on. That's who I would go after if I was the Redskins.
Yeah, but I assume that they're going to, try and just contain McLaurin with those other guys.
Listen, you know what? I mean, Terry McLaurin could have torched Darius Slay last week. If Dwayne Haskins had been accurate and even remotely accurate, which he wasn't, I went through all that film. I'm not going to.
Yeah. We all saw it was not a good day.
No, it wasn't. I mean, if Haskins had been more accurate, Terry could have had, 150 yards. And Slay's an All-Pro. So the idea that really nobody has contained him all year long. It's really just been a passive quarterback thing. And so I think the idea that Dante Jackson, the likes of Dante Jackson, James Bradbury, are going to be the guys to lock down Terry McLaurin, I don't think so.
Well,
I don't think so at all.
The other concern is, and we're talking about this online today, you and I, they really just don't have anybody else if they contain McLaurin.
Kelvin Harmon
he's getting more
star.
run, which is good. But yeah, my point, the thing I keep pointing to, Chris Thompson's still our number 2 receiver in terms of yards. He hasn't played in half the season.
As sad as that is, that's true.
Yeah, it's very depressing.
Yeah, I mean, we said it before. I mean, we're not getting a tight end this year. We're not getting. I don't know what in the world is going on with Chris Thompson and his health, but we're not getting anything out of him this year. Or if we do, it'll be at the end of the year. The weapons are limited. I mean, you're exactly right, Alex. I mean, I tend to think. I guess I may have a higher opinion of Harmon than you do, maybe. But
I think he's got potential. I just until I see more, I'm not giving him anything. You know.
Fair enough. But this is why we're seeing Adrian Peterson catch passes. By the way. Because there's literally nobody else.
Right.
This is why he was the check down guy, last week. Peterson doesn't normally do that. That would have been Chris Thompson.
I wish they'd get a little more creative and figure out ways to, because I feel like Geis could actually be a decent out of the backfield option more too.
I think so.
They need to get them both on the field. We so desperately need more weapons. Figure out a way to put Geis in the slot or something. I don't know.
Put Geis in the slot. That'd be different.
Yeah, why not? Just try something.
Put Burton in the slot. Let's see how that goes. Put the fullback out there. No, I mean, it's the same old story. Look, this offense is pathetic. Okay, from a accomplishment standpoint, in a statistical standpoint, this is the worst offense in football, and it's not close. You really want to hear some? You want to hear some depressing stats? I got to read them. The Redskins are last in the NFL, worst in the following categories: total points, total yards, yards per game, passing yards, time of possession, third down conversions, red zone efficiency. They are...
That's, by the way, 8 categories, I believe you just mentioned.
8? Okay. And they are 29th in total passes thrown. They're 230. They're 30th in total rushes, despite Bill Callahan's emphasis on the rush. This is because they're so bad on third downs that they haven't had many plays.
Well, I remember that stat a few weeks ago that we run the least amount of plays since Callahan's taken over of any team in the league.
It's because they can't convert third downs.
Right. Because he takes 8 minutes to call a play.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, he does too. The games are running, like Rick Snyder keeps pointing out how fast the games go. Yeah, that's why. But
I love it, man.
It is faster. Yeah, we do appreciate that much. But it's just, they're unbelievably ineffective on offense. I don't know if it's going to change this year or not. Probably not.
No, probably
this
not.
is an offense that scares absolutely nobody. The only thing they're even mediocre in now is rushing yards per attempt. Mm-hmm. They're okay. We're up to 4.1 now.
Which is, by the way, what
average.
Like the minimum threshold you want to be at is 4.1.
Yeah, that's average. But right. That is ranked 21st in the NFL. So there's that. So we're up to 21st in rushing yards per attempt. Other than that, they're just terrible in everything on offense. There's this Terry McLaurin literally is the only redeeming quality in this offense.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're like, McLaurin, yay. Haskins maybe in the future. Geist maybe in the future.
I think Dwayne just had a bad day more than anything.
Well, I'm talking more. I just watching for development.
No, I know, but I think that I just have to think he's going to be more accurate this week. He's not normally been that inaccurate. That was really bad. He's not normally that inaccurate. That was, the concerns we all had about him were more development wise. It was more. In the beginning it was, the plays. Is he going to be able to call the plays and get out of the huddle and all that stuff? He does have some mechanical issues for sure. But
yeah, that's my big thing I'm looking at now. He's
always kind of made it work though. He's been he was very accurate in college. I just think more than anything he had a bad day, and I think it'll be better. And again, I mean, I think there's.
Do you buy his "I hurt my hand" thing? Do you think that's legit?
No. You kidding me? I thought that was a pretty pathetic excuse. He wasn't on the injury report. He's still not on the injury report, by the way, about it. Let me make sure before I say that. I don't think he was.
But I feel like you would have seen like a bruise or something.
Even if he was, I mean, suck it up, man. No, I thought that was pretty sad. What he should have just said is, I blew it. I need to be better. That's what he should have said.
I had a bad day there. Glad we
thought
won.
I thought it was whiny, and sad. I didn't like that answer. He's just got to get better. And you're right. To me, it's more of his footwork than anything. I mean, I keep watching
his footwork and his throwing motion. Those are the two.
I think his footwork is what's causing it, though. I mean, his body just isn't in line, and I mean, remember Zach Schaumler said he didn't like the way the ball came out of his hand, and that has to do with his elbow, more than anything. But to me, it's more a footwork thing. That's what I keep seeing over and over again is the footwork for him.
Yeah, you know what? That's stuff that he's got all year to work on. Yeah. That's my mindset on it. If he can get that footwork down better, because there are times when it's great. I mean, you've been posting highlights quite a bit, and there are some times where you see him dropping back. He looks like any pro that's out there.
And his arm is unbelievable. When everything's working right, dude has got an arm that's like one of the best in the league.
It's just the off-schedule stuff. He needs to fix it.
Yeah. I was still in awe of the past 2 weeks ago that didn't count. The
65-yarder? Yeah.
That was I mean, there's only a handful of quarterbacks. That's like Aaron Rodgers territory.
Yeah.
Kind of throw, So, I think it'll be slightly better. I mean, the problem, of course, is that the Panthers get a ton of sacks.
Right.
They're second in the NFL in sacks. So the offensive line is going to have to be better. We're not, Morgan Moses is not going to have to play, Ole, blocking, all of that.
Do you think we'll see Christian again, or do you think they'll go back to?
Oh no, I don't, because Callahan addressed that this week too. Somebody asked him why John Christian was starting. It was because there was some disciplinary action with Penn, and so they sat Penn in the beginning of the game because of the discipline. He didn't describe what it was, but it was some minor violation of team rules, sounds like. So that was the reason. So no, we're going to see Donald Penn.
Okay. I actually thought Christian played okay.
He was okay, yeah.
I
don't think he's anything special. He's okay.
No. But I think a lot of people give him a really bad rap, and he's not as bad as that.
Yeah, so the only saving grace, really, I think, not the only, the biggest saving grace of this Panthers defense, beyond the fact that Luke Kuechly exists, is they get a ton of sacks and they've got a lot of interceptions. 13 interceptions on the year. Those two things really save them. Because, listen, they're bad in the red zone. They're almost as bad as the Redskins in the red zone. They're not good on third downs. 41. They're 41% in third downs, 22nd. So, I've already talked about their run game. Mm-hmm. The only thing that save this team is the sacks and the interceptions. And so, the Redskins have a suspect offensive line, and they have Dwayne Haskins throwing a lot of interceptions.
You can build a lot of championships on sacks and interceptions, though, if you have a offense to go with it.
Exactly right. So, it's
I would kill for a sack and interception heavy defense.
I do think that Dwayne will have a better day, because I just don't think what we saw last week was the real Dwayne Haskins. It's like in the mortal words of Eminem, will the real Dwayne Haskins please stand up? Yeah. And I think that will happen. He's not going to have the games like that every time. We talk about wanting to see development of him. With him, it's not a linear progression, people. He's a young quarterback. He's going to have these kind of games, those bad games, and then it'll get better, and then it'll be worse, and that's just the way it goes. So
what you want to see, Steve, is you want to see that little line chart. It's going to go up and down, but when you draw the flat line that's like the average, it's steadily going up in the end. That's what we want.
Right.
Week 17, I want to see, that line is, 10 points higher than it was at the start of the year.
I'm not going to bore you with the statistical description of what you're trying to say, because I could.
I can't remember if it's the mean, median, or mode. It's been too long.
It's not the mode. I won't bore you with it. But yeah, generally speaking, yes, you want to see a steady progression, but you have to understand that he's going to have ups and downs. Right. So, look, I guess in conclusion, first and foremost, against the Carolina Panthers in particular, Adrian Peterson and Darius Guys need to do their thing, and they need to do it effectively. If you can do that, it makes life dramatically easier on Haskins. That is definitely what Bill Callahan's going to do. He knows, he's read the same stats and seen the same film as we have, and he's obviously much better at it than we are. So you do that, and you let your one weapon do his thing.
Right.
Maybe they'll have a chance.
Yep, and, maybe we'll have a chance, too. I know what I'll have a chance at, though, and that's more Thanksgiving food.
Absolutely.
If
still
you're
going to be eating
listening
leftovers by then?
Oh, I'll be
Sunday?
through my leftovers, I think, by Sunday.
Okay.
You got to remember, I go to family's house, so I don't get to, keep all the leftovers.
Oh, okay. See, since I don't cook, I have ordered from the local grocery store that I have to pick up tomorrow.
Fancy you.
No, I mean, I'm not ordering from a fancy grocery store. I'm ordering from Kroger,
Oh, okay.
Because I can't
Kroger's
cook.
Decent, though.
I don't cook. I can't cook.
Yeah.
So I had to order turkey and stuff from Kroger.
So you ordered a pre-cooked turkey breast or something?
Because
is it just you and the kids?
Yeah, and so the turkey they wanted to sell me was 12 pounds, and that was way too big for 3 people. And so
that takes a week.
Yeah, and so I ordered a certain amount of boneless turkey. So presumably that's sliced, turkey breast and stuff. That's what that's what's coming.
Gotcha.
But I have I think 4 or 5 pounds of that. So that's still a lot. But that was the minimum they would sell me.
4 or 5 pounds of that. You got some mashed potatoes, some stuffing. You'll be good.
Exactly right. That's what I did.
Yeah, as long as I have mashed potatoes and stuffing and gravy, I'm happy. That's all I need in life.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you guys on Monday.
Whoa, hold on a minute. We didn't do a game prediction.
Oh, shoot. We didn't do game predictions.
No. Okay, I'll go first since, I put you on the spot about it. Let me see here. I would love to say the Redskins are going to win this, with the momentum and all that, but they're traveling. They're on the road. It's the Panthers.
Yeah.
I think they will play better. I think we will see progress. This may me being hopeful, but I think we might actually see a touchdown or two. God help us. But I think ultimately the Panthers are probably going to win the game. I think it's going to be a close-fought game, so I'm going to say something along the lines of 24-17. Panthers.
24-17?
Yeah.
I'm not far off from you. I'm kind of seeing the same thing. I'm just going to say 21-13.
Okay.
Yeah.
And because we predicted that, we're going to see 3 field goals.
Yay!
Hey, if you want a fantasy kicker on your fantasy football team, Dustin Hopkins is your man.
Yeah, go grab Hopkins these days. That's good. Although he missed one, so that would hurt you in fantasy.
It doesn't matter. He's the entire Redskins offense.
That's true.
He's got to be one of the highest scoring kickers in the league.
Yeah, we'll look into that. Let's talk about that Sunday.
Okay. All right.
All right, folks. Enjoy your Thanksgiving meal. Enjoy watching football on Thursday because it's nonstop football now. So, have a good night.
Welcome to A Game of Two Scarves, the world's first footballing podcast brought to you by the two great mates who just so happen to support the deadly rivals of Newcastle and Sunderland.
Each week we bring you a down-to-earth, informed discussion on our respective football clubs. Everything from post-match opinions to thoughts on who we thought did well, who didn't, and where we think the club needs to progress going forward.
We bring the odd guests along for the ride too, often from clubs outside of the region, so, as well as our own clubs, we do like to discuss the latest big news from around the world of the greatest game.
So sit back, put your allegiances to one side and enjoy the chat and humour of A Game of Two Scarves podcast.